Lol, woods are safe, guys. Only need to walk in a straight line for 24 hours, XDD. Absolutely, unequivocally confirmed for never leaving the big city. Commando here. I grew up and still live in the Ozark South. This isn't the rolling green fields and picturesque farms south, but the cold mountains and deep hollers south. I've shot, hunted, fished, and hiked since I was 5 years old. There's enough of my blood in these hills to call them blood relatives, and I'll tell you one thing. If you wander them with that mentality, you will die. It's already bad enough that most people are woefully unprepared to practice even basic land nav, let alone tracking or advanced survival. Each year there are quite a few instances of some stupid hippie or yuppie getting lost in the woods, and instead of staying put, they throw their hands up in the air and say, "How hard could it be?" and try to get out. Some make it, but every year there are many, many people who simply disappear due to their own incompetence. The farther you go from civilization, the more dangerous it becomes. The animals are larger and may not have developed a fear of humans. Navigation is far more difficult. You have to rely on logging surveys or grainy aerial photography, and help can be hours away, if you even have phone reception. The problem is magnified if you head out west, where there are even fewer people. Help is multiple hours away, instead of a couple. If you try to tackle the big show and get flown or boated into the backcountry of Alaska, Montana, Idaho, or Canada, help is measured in days. And that is even if you can get satellites overhead for sat phone coverage. This is to speak nothing of the animals that live out there, or the other things that are way out in the wilderness. Pick related, the mountain range where I hunt here in Oklahoma. My family is from Arkansas, down in the Ouachita Mountains. The range itself extends from western Arkansas over into eastern Oklahoma. The whole damn range is one tangled mess of pine barren, rich red soil, and rocky cliffs. There is next to no law in most of this area, and people will generally look after their own by means of guns. This is how it is throughout most of the rural South. Not the low XD redneck small towns near big cities. People don't trust outsiders. How are they to know you're not a fucking drug smuggler? If you don't know your shit, or you keep your ducks in a row as the saying goes, you can easily get fucked on a simple flat tire and be stranded hours until a tow truck makes its way down. So let's say you're some yuppie who just bought a deer rifle, or if you're a hoplophobic friend, want to engage in nature photography, and you decide to head out into the remotest place you can find. Gotta see that real nature, man. So, now you're 3 hours on the highway from the nearest actual city, an hour and a half on old logging roads back in the forest from a small town. And you have no cell reception. You're in the middle of an old logging preserve turned game preserve or something to that effect. Thousands of acres crisscrossed with 100-year-old logging roads, some of which are overgrown, and some which are occasionally, read once or twice a season, traveled. You are now effectively 5 hours by fucking car from the nearest hospital, with no cell reception, and in an area that's only really traveled by the occasional forester, hunter, or wildlife biologist. Congratulations. You're now in the actual fucking woods. There are honest-to-God black bear out there, 500-pound wild boar, and occasionally, red wolves, and many mountain lions. If a piece of land can support all of those predators, some above 500 pounds, undisturbed by people, it begs the question, what other large things are out there? I'm just gonna go ahead and say this as well. Most skeptics, and hikers for that matter, never really go into the actual wilderness. They go to state parks, well-manicured trails, or at best, hunting leases. All of these places are well-traveled by people, and animals are shit scared of people with good reason. 50 years ago, my grandfather could go hunting wearing whatever the fuck he wanted, wherever the fuck he wanted, and the animals didn't really give a shit, as long as he was decently quiet. Now, however, animals that live close to people have gotten much smarter and learned to recognize patterns, colors, and scents related to the presence of people. As such, people who hunt in popular areas deck themselves out in expensive full-body camo suits and scent-blocking spray, shampoo, and soap. If Sasquatch exists, it's going to be on the same level as a mountain lion. It would be an apex predator. If you've hunted mountain lion or been stalked by one, you know, they know, how to stay fucking invisible to the human eye, unless they decide to attack you straight away, highly unlikely. Or they are so hungry they're hunting something else, and don't give a single fuck you're there. I've hunted bear in Alaska wearing a fucking tracksuit. They just didn't give a fuck because they didn't know what the fuck I was. Near my hometown, it's hard to even see boar during the day, because they know that's when people are active. If Sasquatch are real, and most actual hill folk sure as shit believe in them, you don't think he would walk right out in fucking front of a tour bus, now do you? If it's real, it's a fucking animal, and thus behaves like one. To actually find this friend, you have to engage in Jane Goodall levels of research. Spend months and months in a single area searching. If you actually want to know if cryptids exist, put in effort, grab a gun, and go in the fucking woods. Essentially, you need the following things: shelter, food, protection. Shelter is self-explanatory, a small tent or hammock with a bug net. Food is also self-explanatory. Enough water for your stay, a filter is also great in case you get lost, and enough food for your stay, with enough to spare. When I go out, I usually bring tinned meat and some bread because that's easier to get up in a tree in a small bear bag. For me, the classic is Spam and some dark bread. Both are calorie dense, but relatively healthy. You get fats and proteins to sustain yourself from the Spam, and complex carbohydrates from the dark bread to keep your energy up all day. Nuts and beef jerky make great snacks for the same reason: fats, protein, and healthy carbs. Also, it's best not to have to cook your food, as this A, gives away your position to animals and people alike, and B, it attracts the greedy forest friend coyotes and other animals that retards feed. Suburbanites feed fucking black bears because they are so cute, XD. Carry a map of your area and a compass if you're new. Never go too far from your parking spot, if you're a new woodsman, and mark your trail on your map. Stay calm at all times, and for the love of God, never go in a woods alone. Going alone on a manicured trail is one thing, but it's entirely different if the only person who knows the general area you're in is your family and the gas station guy 2 hours away. Tell people where you're going and stick to your plan. Night vision and tactical gadgets are completely worthless. They will fail and are of absolutely no use to anyone except in extremely limited circumstances. Long story short, those gadgets that are average Joe affordable suck and will hamper your ability to learn to use your natural sense, if they even do work. For protection, don't fuck around with a knife or a machete. Those are tools and not weapons. Get a good gun and learn how to use it. Doesn't have to be fancy, just something you practice with. I know this is stereotypical for a commando, but get a Mosin Nagant. They will never be banned anywhere, and people won't second guess you having an old hunting rifle, because that's what it looks like. The ammo is cheap. It's accurate enough if you do your part. Most people don't train enough and blame the rifle, and it will drop any animal on the North American continent. I hunt with an AK pattern rifle down south, because 7.62 by 39 performs just like 30-30. Imagine Grandpa's old lever action, and it'll drop anything to south while providing quick follow-up shots. As for the woods, it all depends where you go. A favorite deer hunting spot of mine is a river bottom between 3 farms. Close enough where it's only 40 minutes from my house, and well-traveled enough that I feel completely safe there. However, it's a shitty fucking swamp, so people don't hunt there and I get the deer to myself. My favorite Innawoods place are much more remote, and as such are a lot more dangerous. I was stranded overnight once while boar hunting because my bro's car died. We had to wait until someone traveling down the valley saw the fire burning and rolled up, fully armed, to see what was going on. They were worried we were drug runners, but after a tense discussion and standoff, decided we were A-OK and jumped our car for us. That same bro and I have been followed by a hill person in the same area. He never came close to us, but shadowed us all day. He never was able to get eyes on us, as we ended up sitting about 30 yards in the tree line, and waiting after seeing some birds fly up a few hundred yards behind us. We never saw him, but found his fresh cigarette butts in our tracks. Honestly, from some of the shit I've seen in the woods, your biggest threats are people. That isn't to say there aren't other things in the forest. From experience, I know there are. Just keep a low profile, learn your stalking skills. You may run into something spooky. Or not. Kiamchi Mountains hands down anywhere southeast of Lake Eufaula. From there, south to Texas, east to Arkansas, southeast to Louisiana. That whole area is one sparsely populated thicket. It's like the Pine Barrens mixed with the Smoky Mountains. Tons of old growth pine, mountains, and deep valleys. If I recall correctly, the area has the highest per capita sightings of Sasquatch in the lower 48. Basically anywhere east of Tulsa is known as green country. It's nothing like the stereotypical Oklahoma plains, which are located out west. Green country is essentially an extension of the Ozark Plateau, and looks exactly the same. During the 1800s, most western Arkansas families ranged over the border into the unincorporated Indian Territory, Oklahoma, and ranged into the Kiamchi and Winding Stair Mountains, part of the Wachita Range. My family was no different. The forests are beautiful during the day, light shafts bursting through the trees and deep green everywhere. In the few open fields, there are tons of wildflowers, and to be honest, it's one of the most beautiful places in the country. The rivers are pretty clear, so it makes for great fishing and hiking. However, at night, shit gets fucking nuts. It's pitch black because of the canopy, and visibility is zip. As previously mentioned, you're generally alone out there, and there is a ton of public land. All in all, it makes for great days hiking and hunting, and long, cold, paranoid nights.